Shots fired. I was just a 12-year-old boy when the camping trip to the serene woods of New Jersey turned into a nightmarish ordeal that would haunt me. We'd set up camp at a peaceful campground nestled along a sprawling farmland, and the idyllic setting promised a serene weekend getaway. Here I was with my family in the New Jersey woods. One sunny afternoon, I decided to take our faithful dog, Max, for a long walk around the campground. The beauty of the countryside surrounded me, and the air was filled with soothing sounds of nature. It was a picture-perfect day, until my curiosity led me beyond the campground's boundary and on to the neighboring farmland. Unbeknownst to me, remnants of old barbed wire laid hidden beneath the tall grass, remnants of a bygone era where the farmland had extended further. As I took a step, I felt a searing pain as the wire wrapped around my leg, slicing into it. Panic and agony overwhelmed me, and I cried out for help. In my desperate state, I directed Max to go get Dad, hoping he would bring my family to the rescue. Max, understanding the urgency, sprinted away into the distance, his loyal heart racing with purpose. But then, an unexpected and chilling turn of events unfolded. The tranquil farmland suddenly transformed into a scene of sheer terror. Gunshots echoed through the air, and I turned to see the farmer, a distant figure, running across the field with a rifle in his hand. My heart pounded as I realized that he was shooting at me. Every few feet he stopped, took aim, and fired in my direction. When I tell you the bullets whizzed past me, grazing the ground, I watched in sheer disbelief as he advanced, each shot bringing him closer. I was trapped. The barbed wire had me ensnared, and the pain in my leg was excruciating. I couldn't move. I couldn't even lay down to shield myself. I was utterly defenseless at the mercy of this crazed farmer. But then, in the midst of this nightmare, a glimmer of hope appeared. I saw Max returning, accompanied by a group of about 15 people. He had made it clear to them that I was in dire need of help. With haste, they rushed to my side, finally managing to free me from the cruel grip of the barbed wire. As I looked up, I expected to see the farmer who had pursued me. However, to my shock, there was no sign of him. No one had even heard the gunshots, and there was no trace of the armed assailant. It was as if he had vanished, leaving me to grapple with the horrifying memory of an encounter that defied all logic. That fateful day in New Jersey wilderness would forever remain etched in my mind, and probably I'll never go back again. Campground Creeper. It was a cool, clear night when my friend and I decided to go camping deep in the secluded woods of a national park. The moon cast a silvery glow on the trail as we set up our campsite. We were prepared for a night under the stars, equipped with hammocks and blankets, but little did we know the serenity of the forest would be shattered. We'd strung our hammocks about 6 feet off the trail, our warm cocoon for the night. The forest was alive with the sounds of night's creatures, and the only light came from the stars above. The campfire had died down, leaving us in tranquil darkness. In the early hours of the morning, I woke to a strange, unsettling noise. The soft crunching of leaves underfoot alerted me to an intruder, someone slowly approaching our campsite. My heart raced as I listened to the stranger's footsteps draw nearer. They stopped right beside my hammock, and a sense of dread pitted in my stomach. The intruder stood there for what felt like an eternity, a menacing presence lurking in the shadow. I held my breath, unable to see the person clearly in the dark. Then, with slow, deliberate movements, the stranger began to walk away, fading back into the obscurity of the forest. Relieved that the intruder was retreating, I began to unwrap myself from the cocoon of blankets, but my relief was short-lived as I noticed a figure leaning over my friend's hammock. Panic surged through me as I watched the entire scene unfold. The stranger, a teen or young adult, was reaching for something on my friend's belt. She woke up suddenly, and fear gripped her as she started yelling at the intruder to get away. His excuse was as bizarre as it was chilling, claiming he was just looking at the campsite, but it soon became evident that his intentions were far more sinister. He'd been reaching for the knife on my friend's belt, and we realized that he had no interest in our camping gear, which included Bluetooth speakers, beer, electronics, all displayed on the camp table. He was solely fixated on that knife. The ordeal took place at around 5 a.m., and sleep was impossible after that terrifying encounter. We decided it was best to leave the forest behind, quickly packing up our belongings. As we were driving out of the campground, we spotted the same young man standing by the roadside. To our astonishment, he smiled and waved at us as if the earlier incident had meant nothing to him. Forest of Dolls. The sun dipped below the horizon, and I was on a leisurely hike into a nightmare of epic proportions. That day had started off with the promise of adventure, as I set out on a trail I'd never explored before. The crisp air, the rustling leaves, and the distant sound of nature had drawn me deeper into the heart of the forest. However, my eagerness to venture off the beaten path had led me astray, and before I knew it, I was disoriented and far from familiarity. Hours passed, and with each step my anxiety grew. The dense forest seemed to close in around me, swallowing me whole. Panic set in as I realized I had no cell phone signal, and the map I brought with me was virtually useless. It was nearly dusk when I finally emerged from the forest onto a lonely, desolate road. The sign nearby read, Purgatory Road. The name sent shivers down my spine, but at least I was out of the woods, or so I thought. As I began walking along Purgatory Road, my heart raced. The road seemed endless, and not a single car passed by. I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. The first house I entered was a decrepit old farmhouse, its paint long faded and windows boarded up. Barbed wire surrounded the property, and upon closer inspection, I realized it wasn't a farmhouse at all, but an abandoned alpaca farm. The most chilling aspect of the scene was the odd assortment of doll heads mounted on sticks, scattered throughout the yard. They stared at me with vacant eyes, their lifeless expressions unsettling in the fading light. I couldn't comprehend the purpose of such a weird display. I hesitated for a moment, considering turning back into the forest, but exhaustion and the stillness of Purgatory Road drove me forward. I continued down the road, the house and its unsettling decorations disappearing behind me. As I walked, I would hear a weirdness of strange noises reaching my ears. It was as if the very essence of the name of this road was taunting me. It wasn't until much later that I'd finally reached civilization and had known why those dolls were on those sticks. They weren't there to frighten travelers like me. Instead, they were there to keep rabbits away from the alpaca farm. But that knowledge did little to soothe my nightmares in the weeks that followed, as the memory of that desolate road and the ominous alpaca farm in the middle of nowhere haunted me. I never ventured off trail again, and that place, Purgatory Road, has secrets that I'll never want to uncover.